Sports in Australia, soccer, football, I guess, right?
Well, it's actually
Rugby?
Australian rules football.
Oh, no,
Some people
that?
say rugby, and I say that's wrong. I say it's Aussie rules footy, which we just call footy. And I just would...
Footy.
Footy, and I'm
It's
so excited.
It's a little gay, right?
Well... well...
Footy?
Would you like to perhaps play a game of touch footy with me today?
No. And I'm sorry, I apologize. It's the fever.
We have no helmets, no pads, nothing like you guys wear.
Right.
So it's a little more manly.
I see.
Flying the flag for Australia, and it's a long way from the animal enclosure at Moorabbin to the Ed Sullivan Theatre in New York with Dave Letterman, and back again. You've gone up and down. You've come back here to South Melbourne tonight. Eric Bana, welcome to ENT.
Thanks, Ed. Yeah.
In fact, it is a homecoming because this was your old set basically around here.
It was, yeah. When I first started out at Channel 7, this is a building we'd have our Monday morning writers meeting in and walk around the corner to the studio. So it's very fond memories.
Eric, it's an amazing career that you've had. You started off, you were doing, you know, hard labouring jobs as a 21-year-old. You went over and had a bit of a road trip in America yourself and came back working in a pub. And you've watched the comedy down in North Melbourne, weren't you? It was a pub in North Melbourne, and you watched a couple of comedians going, geez, they're not that good. How much are they getting paid?
Exactly. I was taken to a comedy night, and I just assumed everyone was going to be as good as Richard Pryor or you know,
Eddie Murphy
or someone like that. And a couple of them were good, and a couple of them were pretty average. And I just thought I'll give this a go. And it was pretty intimidating back then because in the early '90s, you know, Melbourne was a real hotbed. The stand-up comedy scene and comedy in general was a real lockdown with a lot of, you know, really talented people. But a really good mate eventually came along, Glenn Robbins, and sort of held my hand and sort of demystified the whole industry a little bit, and it really made a big difference. And I thought, I'll give this a shot.
As you said, it was a red-hot scene to break into because you had the D-Generation, Richard Stubbs, you had all these people on breakfast radio around Melbourne, and then you had Steve Izard and Andrew Knight doing Full Frontal.
Fast Forward.
And
Comedy Company
was the biggest show on television. And Trev Marmalade was going. It was everywhere, wasn't it?
Yeah. And the good thing was, I mean, it was highly competitive, but the industry itself was really healthy. There were a lot of stand-up comedy rooms, and it was a good time to get started, but it was hard to sort of take that next step.
How long did it take you to go from behind the bar to actually making a quid doing the stand-up?
I'd say about 6 months in, I thought to myself, this is going okay. I'll give myself another 18 months, and if I haven't made a good go of it, I'll give it away. And at the end of the 2 years, I auditioned for Full Frontal and started doing sketch comedy and making a fool of myself at Channel 7, having a great time. And at the time of my life, actually, the 5 or 6 years I was there.
Well, it was probably this character, Poiter, that made it all happen. Let's have a look at a little bit of Poiter in action.
How's it going? Sweet. Now, I'm here to give you some more Olympic training tips. In particular, today I'm going to be talking about water sports. Now, it's important to get the right gear on. Something that looks right and something that feels right. Now, whatever you do, don't leave any valuables in the change room, because some bugger might steal them. Piece of the Falcon? Sweet.
The keys of the Falcon.
It's a good thing I didn't wear the purple suit tonight. I think it's still hanging up at home.
Mate, Poiter was just... I mean, you grew up in Tullamarine. There was a few Poiters out that way.
There were plenty. Yeah, Friday night out at Calder Park Dragway. There was plenty of those sort of characters.
Gladstone Park Hotel would have been big as well.
Oh, yeah, all that stuff. And he was great for my career, obviously, because... I mean, it's really hard in comedy to do anything that's memorable, you know. So when people still today say, you know, how's it going, Poiter, or, you know, I remember Poiter, it's a huge compliment. I love it because, you know, as I say, it's really hard to come up with original characters and to have them remembered in any way. It's great.
We came up with original characters. You also wrote your own stuff, but at the same time, you did act them out as well. How much... was that a help when you actually went to your big first role in Chopper and trying to just get that, you know, taking off Mark Brandon Reed, who a lot of people around town knew?
Yeah, well, I think some people always look at comedy as like it's completely different to dramatic acting, and I had a great TV director in Ted Emery, who was just a genius. And I learned a lot from Ted and the people I was working with at the time. And I just really, again, sort of demystified it and thought, well, it can't be a huge amount of difference between the two. So I wasn't intimidated by the switchover. And I was also lucky that if I had been in America and working on a show like Saturday Night Live, it would have been a lot harder to make that transition.
Yeah.
But I went over there and no one had really heard of me, knew nothing about my comedy background. They didn't know about Poiter. You know, I may have been turned back at the border if that had been the case, but it all sort of flowed.
Well, you went from Poiter to The Castle, which has become probably Australia's probably most loved film in a lot of ways. So we'll roll a bit of The Castle and then we'll have a look at Chopper and just the transition that you've made in what's been an amazing career so far.
It's the culture, Daryl. The place is full of culture.
Chockers.
Oh, yeah. Something for everyone.
What was that movie again, Con? The one on the way back?
Dale.
There were so many stories.
And the hotel Trace and I were staying in, they had this one channel, kickboxing, 24 hours a day.
It was just so interesting to hear about another
One of them.
country.
Meals were $5, Mum. The most beautiful sardies.
What's that, Dale?
Oh, it's meat on a skewer with peanut sauce and grilled.
And the stories went on and on all night.
The value for money is absolutely second to none. One of the other Sony Walkmans.
With presets?
Yeah, presets. And Mega Bass, $85 Australian.
Wow. Bargain? Shit, yeah.
I mean, Rob Sitcher was his first movie directing, the first feature film for a working dog, your first movie, I think probably half the cast's first movie.
Yeah.
What an amazing coming together of so many wonderful people who've gone on to dominate
Absolutely.
Australian show business.
You know, I remember as clear as day, we had a read-through one, I think it was a Sunday afternoon in the Working Dog offices. To this day, it's one of the tightest scripts I've ever read. And it hardly changed from the read-through all the way through to the shoot. And it was just a brilliant script. It was just on the page. All we had to do was go out and do it, really.
And Chopper, we'll have a look at the scene from Chopper. Talk about method acting. 13 kilograms you had to put on. You'd go in there at 4 o'clock in the morning to get the tattoos put on every day.
Yeah.
And you went out, interviewed Mark Brennan Reid plenty of times. In fact, I think it was Chopper himself who actually said, I think he should play me. But let's have a look at what was the breakout movie internationally for Eric Bana.
How would you describe yourself now?
Just a bloke. Just a good bloke down on his luck.
Well, you don't seem out of luck to me. You've written a bestseller.
Yeah, I know. And I can't even bloody spell. What about those poor bloody academics, those college graduates, battling their guts out to write some airy-fairy piece of exaggerated artwork, and there's a bloke sitting in a cell who can't spell, and he's written a bestseller. It sold 250,000 copies, and it's still selling. And he's writing another one, and I can't even spell. I'm semi-bloody illiterate. They must hate my guts, eh?
Now, that's you obviously playing Chopper on the right-hand side, 13 kilos up. And that's you playing me. No, sorry, that's Troy. That was a couple of years later. I mean, you know, you really throw yourself in. I mean, the physical work to get yourself up to that condition without having put on 13 kilos. I mean, how much work do you really put into it?
It's you know, it's one of the great parts about the job is that you throw yourself in at the deep end, and that's actually what I love about it. I enjoy the filmmaking, but I really enjoy that sort of 3 to 6 month period leading up when you're learning about something you don't know much about and you're learning a new skill, or you're off, you know, with the special forces guys, or you're learning how to sword fight, or you're learning about counterintelligence or Israeli history, or it's just that is the best part of the job, without a doubt.
I read a quote from Roger Ebert, who's one of the serious film critics in the United States, writes for Rolling Stone and I think for the Chicago Tribune as well. But he said, quote, "In a comedian named Eric Bana, the filmmakers have found a future star. He has a quality no acting school can teach you and few actors can match. You cannot look away from him." Well, no acting school taught you anything, did you? You were self-taught, basically.
Yeah,
and with
I
great
sort
directors.
I learned on the job. Yeah, I really did. I had hit the ground running and been running scared ever since.
Let's go back to the footy. Let's go back to one of your first loves. Apart from your cars, we'll get to that a little bit later on. Croatian, German background, living around the Paran area first of all, and then out in Tullamarine. Saturday it was Moorabbin, Sunday it was Paran in the VFA when it was the good old days.
Absolutely.
Where they drank their body weight in grog and ate dim sims all afternoon and watched the
Rubbish
fights.
bins full, absolutely. And I did that to keep my uncles happy. I had a St Kilda uncle and a Melbourne Demons uncle, and truth be told, I actually barracked for Melbourne for half a day. I got recruited about age 3 by one uncle, and the other uncle found out the next day and came with a better package.
Yeah.
I think it was the scarf and the beanie and the promise to take me to the footy. So I'd go to the footy. I'd go to Moorabbin on the Saturday with one uncle, and then to Paran to watch the Blue Boys on the Sunday. The Sunday was usually a better result, so Paran was actually quite close to my heart.
Yeah. Which uncle got you? What was his name?
Uncle Klaus got me to
And you
St
named your son Klaus?
And I named my son Klaus, exactly.
Yeah.
So we've carried the tradition.
Tell me about the days down at Moorabbin. You used to be a big Nicky Winmar fan, did you?
Oh, yeah. Nicky was probably my favourite Saints player of all time. And my uncle used to feed me through the chicken wire at the players' race. I used to sit on top of the players' race down there when I was really small. Then when I was able to drive myself, I'd just stand to the side of the players' race. But those days were the best when you had Harvey to Winmar and Winmar kicking feeding the ball down to Lockett. And the place used to just go absolutely nuts. I really miss those days.
For all the lack of success that the Saints had in those days, I mean, Trevor Barker, you'd just go to watch Barks play, and then you had Joffa Cunningham running around, and Greg Burns would be belting everybody.
Robbie Muir. Peter Callary. I couldn't catch him.
Jeff Saru, Robbie Mace, all those blokes running around left, right and centre, Danny Frawley across at fullback. I mean, they were great characters. So what was it that captured your imagination as a kid about football?
I really enjoyed, and I guess, looking back now, without realising it at the time, I love watching people. And I've always loved the game and always enjoyed having a kick of the footy. But I think, as a kid, I used to just love the theatre of going to the football and the energy. I remember you'd go through the gates at Moorabbin, and the gates weren't that far from the actual entrance of the ground, and just the smell of the pies and the men lining up for the beer and having to push through the crowd to get to your spot. I mean, you fed off that energy as a kid, and that was what I grew up with.
Watching the reserves beforehand, trying to pick out the next star.
Going on the ground for a kick after the game, all that sort of stuff.
You love the VFA because you could go out and listen to the coaches speaking. Sam Kekovich and Brian Taylor were down at Paran.
I remember them down there.
Big men.
Absolutely. I remember seeing Kekovich throw a few guys into the fence, and it'd be on for young and old.
Yeah, it's just fantastic days. Hey, now look, let's go back to what you're doing these days. You've actually been lucky enough to actually talk about Australian rules football in a number of films. We wanted to actually show a few of these scenes, but we're told $50,000 to show about 10 seconds of it. So unfortunately, the EMT budget doesn't stretch that far.
Fair enough.
When you're overseas and you are doing these things, and the Adam Sandler movie where you're talking about hating Collingwood, thanks, mate.
Wow.
As always.
No, it was in the script, Ed.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Do they know what the hell you're talking about? We saw the bemused look there on David Letterman's face.
Yeah, they do get a bit confused at first. It's when you tell them that we have no protective gear that their ears prick up. And I always try and have some footage that I can show them, and the game is confusing to them. But they do think we're quite crazy. But it is great to be able to show them the game. And I've had a few grand final nights when I've been unlucky enough to be over there or somewhere at the time and get the crew together and watch the grand final just to sort of explain the game to them.
Well, you're live and in person at the 2010 grand final, and while you were going off there, I was hiding under the seat and vice versa a little bit later in the game. How'd you go getting through the draw in the first instance?
Well, selfishly, the minute the siren went, I had to do the immediate mathematics because I was meant to fly out of the country a couple of days later, and I'd pushed my flight back a week for another reason. So the first thing that entered my mind was, I'm going to miss it. I'm going to miss the replay. And then I realised, actually, no, it's the following Tuesday, so I'm okay. But it was just shell-shocked. The first game I thought had a better atmosphere. I don't know why. I remember coming back for the game the week after, and it was it almost felt like a big home and away game as opposed to a grand final. I don't know why, if the icing got taken off the cake a little bit, but I think I was more devastated after the Geelong loss.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
What about when Goddard took that mark? Did you think we got it?
I really did. I was sort of behind the goals, and when the big pack was pushing the ball into our forward line, and saw the Milne bounce, and that was coming straight towards me. I thought we were home, but I equally thought we were home against Geelong up until the toe poke,
Yeah, in the middle of the ground, scarlet tablet. Mate, you've been in the coach's box a couple of weeks back. What was that experience like for you?
So addictive. It's the first time I've done it, obviously, and it just came out of the blue. Scotty asked me if I'd like to join him for the Geelong game, and I just couldn't believe my luck, and it was immense. It was fantastic. I was there for the pre-match and the halftime address and post-game and the whole experience. I just couldn't sleep. I was I was just beside myself afterwards, and just to see what goes on, and I can see why it's so addictive and how hard it must be for coaches to suddenly be let go and just be out of that box and try and go on with life without it. And I can see why coaches then want to stay in the game and become assistants and do other things at other clubs, because I can't imagine walking out of that coach's box after a game and that just being it. It'd be such an adjustment.
Going back to the movies now and your career, you've done it without a roadmap. You've invented your own path and your own characters, and you've made it on the biggest stage in Hollywood. You operate out of Melbourne with your wife and kids living in Melbourne. You go over to Hollywood and you're a genuine superstar over there, and more movies coming at you. One, can you pinch yourself to believe it? And two, how have you been able to do it and keep the belief?
Yeah, it's, you know, it's, I hope it looks easier from the outside than what it has been like.
It does, but there was nearly 2 years between Chopper being made and Chopper getting out when you were really in no man's land.
Yeah, I mean, you do have those moments where, you know, you're the only person that believes you're able to do what you're setting out to do, but I've always been pretty determined like that, and you do have to have a self-belief, and for me it comes from, I mean, I care, but I sort of don't. I know what makes me happy, and actually getting great success at work actually doesn't make me super happy. It's a great bonus, but I know that the great things in life are all the free things, and just being able to go to the footy and go out my dirt bike and do all those sort of things. So I actually hold them pretty tightly and dearly, and you know, work really hard at not letting go of that stuff and just being able to do all that stuff, because that's the stuff that I want to do.
And people let you do that because people love you for everything, for all your career, but also the fact that you do turn up to the footy and your kids go to the local schools, and you know,
yeah, I've been blessed. I have been blessed. I don't know how it's worked out that way, but I do get left alone, and people are great at the footy. I'm there nearly every week in regular seats, and it's very easy for me. You know, it's an easy place to live.
The other passion you have, of course, is your cars and the Beast. Let's have a look at the Beast.
And then a 5 left. It's slippery, apparently.
I feel like I'm breaking in a horse. I feel like every day both horses are learning, me and the car.
Okay, 10 left, flying finish. Stay on it, stay on it, stay on it.
If you put all the blood, sweat, and tears into this car, you wouldn't have hit the tree.
That car is an important part of your history. It's an important part of your identity. You can't bail on that.
Getting therapy from Dr. Phil about crashing your car, that's pretty big.
Yeah, it's all fixed. It's all in one piece.
The Beast is right again?
Yeah, the Beast is on the road and driving again. And yeah, I love the motor racing. It's a great outlet for me and something I really love doing. And was lucky enough to do the 12-hour a couple of times at Bathurst, and hopefully get another chance to do that again. And it's a great. I love the camaraderie and the atmosphere around a racetrack and race teams. It's good fun.
Eric, we've got some tweets we'll have a look at now that have been sent into EMT. First of all, Eric Bana, what a legend, from Porter to Hollywood superstar. Couldn't have put it any more succinctly there, Hawks 2012. A fantastic effort. To Costas, Eric was fantastic. Does he still practice kickboxing?
24 hours a day, mate. 24 hours a day.
Luke says, can Eric give us a sweet? Seems like a modest guy. Great to see top bloke. Sweet.
There you go.
When you do the chook walk,
honestly, I'd put my neck out if I tried that now. Wrestling the kids, I'll put my neck out, you know. So if I try to do the full-on chook walk now, dead set, I'd be straight to the physio tomorrow morning.
I know, mate, you looked exactly like that. Liam says, we're doing a request now. Can we hear Eric do his Ray Martin roll circa the fast-forward days?
God, I think I've forgotten how to do Ray. I had a lot of fun in those days doing those impersonations. One of the most fun ones I had was, one of the first ones I did was Mike Willisey. And I almost did nothing for Mike, but people loved it because I worked out that he had this trick of, if he was trying to get an answer out of someone, he'd ask half the question, then just pause for 30 seconds until they broke down and confessed. So some of them were a bit easier than the others, and yeah, Ray Martin was one of them.
I'd love to talk to you and go through Black Hawk Down, Hulk, Munich with Steven Spielberg, Ridley Scott, Funny People, which is just a classic. We just got the scene about the AFL football, and you know, Romulus, My Father with Richard Roxburgh, and the next movie that you've just finished, it's not coming out for a little while though yet, is it?
Yeah, I got one coming out in the States called Deadfall, which I did last year in Montreal, in which it's a great little independent thriller. I play the bad guy actually for the first time in a while, and it was a hell of a lot of fun, and it comes out in the States in December. I'm not sure when it comes out here.
Mate, I think our tweeters got it right there. We love you because you are still the same bloke as you always were. You've had wonderful success. You share it around with everybody, and I think people love seeing you in the crowd. We all feel part of what you're doing for some reason.
I'm having a great time. You know, I love what I do, and like I say, I'm very, very fortunate to be able to do what I do. And like I said, coming here tonight brings back a lot of memories. I started out, like I say, in this building, and it was literally a time of my life.
And did a Tonight Show for a while?
Yeah.
In this building?
Up against you for only a couple of weeks, and thank God you smacked me around because I might still be there.
The Footy Show, when it was flying. Jeez, that was the best thing that ever happened.
I've got to thank you for that.
Good on you, mate. Congratulations.
Thanks very much.
Just send me a few royalties now. That'd be fantastic. But, Eric, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show. We'll get you on again next year, hopefully. Thank you, because you said yes at the very start of the year, and you were able to move things around. You promised you'd come on. You did. Absolutely. You're a man of your word. And as I said, mate, good luck with everything you do.
Thanks, Ed. Yeah, good luck for the rest
Eric
of it.
Bana, and we'll see him hopefully next year back in the St Kilda coach's box, and hopefully the Saints will be back in September with Scotty Waters.
Hopefully.
Eric Bana, this is Boyzone, and you'll